Many fans who are in this shit.
Hello and welcome back to the exciting conclusion of the PCS Open 2023. The battle is continuing here with only 9 holes remaining. We will soon see the final 10 standings and podium positions here at Øverås Diskgolfpark. This is round 3 back 9 MPO chase card action brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What's up, Connor? What's up, viewers? Nice to be here once again. Saw some solid play on the front 9, especially from Eagle McMahon, going 5 under, pushing himself already to that tied 3rd position. Trying to make a push, hopefully to enter that top 2, or at least to keep his 3rd place. It's a tight battle behind the first 2 players that have separated themselves from the field. A lot of scoring separation on this back 9. And that theme already starting on hole 10. Very difficult birdie. Only 110 meters, but the shape is just almost impossible to hit with a lot of the shots. At first you're trying to go straight for about 50 meters, then you're trying to bend slightly left for about 50 meters, and then, if possible, even take a right finish for the last 10 meters off the fairway. Really the only clean shot, I believe, to park this hole is to go with a forehand anhyzer, but many people either going with a very low skip shot or trying to go over the trees on the right side.
Eagle simply playing the skip hyzer with some severe overstability, trying to find some ground play as he enters the mouth, but a little bit too straight, although he will have a putt, and on hole 10 that's really all you need. Very rare to see anyone actually park this hole, given its unique and demanding shape. Eric going for a higher hyzer.
A little inside there, that's going to be a tough approach for the par. This must be one of the toughest birdies on the whole course. Quite often do we see players taking a par, and Adam actually going for that high route. You could see the initial low ceiling making this shot very difficult, but he has done it pretty well. He's within putting distance, pin high on the left side.
Ricky also looking upwards. Gonna try to blast one over the trees and crash through. And a tough work for our cameraman, especially the catch cam. Ricky has fired well long and will be putting backwards towards the basket here. Interesting. And you see that nobody really able to land in the fairway too cleanly. Eric up first for his approach is letting this bleed a little bit rightwards, but still a very manageable distance, and I believe keeping himself in the circle.
Let's see, Eagle here. Very difficult look, but probably gonna give this a bit of a run, I would assume. And that's what he's doing. That's great run. You can see the distance control. Flashing the chains, yet not going too far. And Ricky here coming back for that birdie. Another great bid, but not to be this time.
Adam now to give his shot at the elusive birdie on hole 10. Just off the cage. In the front 9 we saw he had a few shorter putts come up just a little bit low, and that one as well, although from a significantly longer distance. Eric, an important moment, and he does save his par. Very nicely done. We see Eagle has separated himself a touch from this chase card. Ricky 3 strokes behind him, Adam and Eric both 4 strokes. Nobody wanting to fall back more than they need to. Quite a high putt from Ricky there. Right up in the chains, and the crowd loves it.
And Connor, can you bring us some stats? How many % of the field got the birdie on this hole? Because it cannot be too high, right?
Only 9%. Single digits here. Very demanding hole. And although 65% of players were able to find the par, the 2 was incredibly difficult.
Wow, that's exactly what I expected, but even a lower number. That's very surprising there. Hole 11. Another hole that is a bit more on the difficult side. You see this island of inbounds area. Everything outside the yellow sticks is hazard. Most players are trying to either throw a turnover that turns the whole way to the right or a big forehand. Really, there's one main obstacle on the fairway on the left side, that is the pine tree. Looks like Eagle is actually going with an overstable flex shot here.
Shaping this one really high and a lot of overstability. Just quite simply does not turn it over enough. He filters down through the tree and I believe not coming down. You see it precipitously hanging on that branch there. No 2-meter rule here in Norway, so he'll get to play the lie directly underneath, although very clearly in hazard.
Yeah, super surprising shot shape there. That was really never going to be in bounds with such an overstable disc. And Eric here making the opposite mistake of fading right, just barely stays in bounds. That's a great chance for the birdie on this hole.
Adam going to be pushing the forehand line as well. You really want to battle this tree as much as you can, fade before it, and he has done exactly that. Right up there with Eric, 2 ideal shots with the forehand line. Ricky going to try to do the same now.
Yeah, if
Very
you can...
domey plastic there in his hand, likely super overstable.
Yep, very good safe shot there. Really no trouble with the hazard for Ricky there. Going to be just outside the circle. Let's see how aggressive Eagle runs this putt. It's one of the windier greens on the course. You can see the wind flapping the flag around on top of the basket. Looks like he's running it for sure. Sticky grass, grabbing the disc. Almost no comebackers ever on this hole, even if you airball the putt.
A little bit of a misfire there from Eric. Very high over the band. Ricky here to find his birdie. And he does translate that. Will sneak one back on Eagle, reducing that gap to only 2 strokes now. Get to take another look. You see that ripping wind right towards him. Gets that nose ever so slightly down to mitigate the headwind, not get lifted. Sneaks it over. Pretty solid putting form for the wind as well. A lot of speed, pace, and spin.
Yeah, Ricky, you can see he kind of adjusted his form to a more spinny stroke. More direct to the basket. As Adam, good putt, penetrates the wind beautifully. He has a very good wind putt, I believe. A lot of spin and that flat release. Flat direct release does not really get affected by the wind a lot. Eric there with a par. Looks like Eagle is going to lose a stroke or 2 to everybody on the card here.
Just like that, with a bogey on 11, Eagle falls back to 18 under. And we see the sequential scores 18, 17, 16, 15 for our chase card. Players only separated by a single stroke between the player above and behind them. Exciting as we move into this hole's scoring separator, hole 12.
Yeah, an absolute monster of a hole. One of the more difficult par 4s you're going to see on tour. First shot is pretty simple. You have to throw a tight line with a bit of a turnover or a forehand finishing right. If you hit the perfect spot off the drive, you're left with a long approach to this island-shaped green. OB between the fairway and the island. It is not playing as an island hole though, since if you cross inside of this island-shaped green, you'll get to play from there. On the approach, there's a couple of options. You can either go over the trees once again, or you can hit the low gap. But this drive is really difficult.
And we see Adam kick to the right side. Very dense foliage in there. if he's not faded left towards the end of the flight, may be left with little to no gaps. And Ricky here with the other side finding the left fairway, likely just having to pitch out and then try to cross on his third shot.
We don't see it in the picture here, but on the left side of all of those trees, on the left side of the fairway, there's an OB line. That's also one thing that causes this hole to create just huge scoring separation. Many double-digit scores got throughout the weekend. Eric had a good shot there, and Eagle is actually going for an alternative route, trying to play a huge wide hyzer. During this final round, there was actually a very good wind for this shot. It was blowing from tailwind, from right to left. Looks like he has thrown a good line there, but possibly going too far. He has found a long OB. Going to have a chance to save his par from there, but wow, what a shot from Eagle. That was super aggressive and super creative.
Yeah, especially given the wind, I can understand that line to try and mitigate the risk of this initial tunnel, which can leave you with very little. A great example of that there. We did see AB in round 1 coverage on this channel get the birdie here on 12 with that hyzer line off the tee. So it has been shown to be done, although Eagle, unfortunately today, not quite finding the fairway. Took it a little bit wider. We see some upshots there from both Adam and Ricky trying to put themselves in position from a tough lie to look and cross over to the green.
Yeah, really.
But this is just a putter, and he's laying up again here. He still does not have an angle on his third shot.
Very precise landing zone here. If you're at all short of the landing zone on any of your shots, you really have no chance to go for the green. Looks like Eagle is having a PD in his hand, going aggressive here. Wide hyzer route. This needs to get through the trees if he wants to be in bounds on the island. Even going too far, he has flown over the island. Gonna have to be putting for 5 from there. Setting up for almost a disaster on this difficult par 4 hole 12.
The field had the best performance of the 3 rounds on hole 12 in this final round, had some time to figure it out. We see Ricky battling but fighting back to inbounds, although pretty deep circle too, looking to be about 17 or 18 meters there. It was averaging on previous days over 5, and on the final round 4.79. So some players were able to solve this puzzle of the difficult hole 12. Adam here playing the forehand hyzer over the top, and that's a nicely placed shot just by that tree, not too far from the basket. Well done on him. That was his 4th, so he'll be putting for bogey.
High over the top forehand is really the preferred approach here. There's kind of nothing in the way if you just get over those initial trees. You can see Eric also playing it very wide. Looks like a great line here. And he's in the bullseye. Beautiful spike hyzer forehand there.
Ricky now has a dangerous look towards the basket, softly downhill. And yeah, you see his nose down putt there, not moving too far past the basket as it's dropping out of the sky on its way. We'll be left with a short putt, and Eagle here for his par save after going OB on the first, crossing on the second. He snags it, taking the bogey rather, as he makes an amazing putt there from way downtown to secure the 5. Let's take another look.
Yeah, what a way to get the 5 going OB long with a huge hyzer off the drive, then just absolutely ripping it over the island, crossing inbounds, only throwing 3 shots but getting 5 strokes on the scorecard. And Adam here, nice straddle putt there. Bogey on this hole, well, as you said, the average being just under 5 is not really a catastrophe for any of these players. Although, being near the top, you would really like to get that par or even the elusive birdie. And Eric being the only player on the card to card that par. Moving on to a much easier par 4 here, hole 13. 222 meters. There is some OB both on the left and the right side, and this OB pond. But all of the players on our card are looking to fly well over all that OB, trying to land somewhere in this open field, setting up a pretty simple approach to the green. Once again, the low trees that are common on this course are creating the chance for a high spike hyzer approach that most players are trying to take on the second shot. Really important to get a lot of distance off the drive, but even if you don't, you still usually have some sort of a look to get to the basket.
Yeah, that sloping green allowing players to attack on their way. We see Eric up first. High and hyzer, a good turn on this. This looks like a great drive.
Yep, very powerful there. Actually making itself into the ditch. I believe that ditch is a great mark for a huge drive here. About 150 to 160 meters to go from the tee to that ditch. So this is a good chance for these players to open up kind of. Adam here. Another very far throwing player. He's on the left side. Might have to contend with some trees, depending on how the trees set up near his disc. He might have to go either low, or ideally, he hopes to have that high spike hyzer approach.
Ricky now, I believe, with a Raider in his hand, his preferred disc for distance at the moment. And this is crushed over the trees as well. Right up there in that ditch that you mentioned marks the sweet spot of a huge drive. And that even had a bit more speed to it when it came in, hitting that tree. Eagle now.
This looks
And
absolutely
gone
destroyed. Wow, that is big. That is big. Still on the left side of the fairway, but that is so far that he will only have a pitch spike hyzer at the basket. And Eric actually going for the unconventional low shot here. Have to appreciate that more touchy line there, and he throws it just beautifully on the edge of the bullseye.
An easy birdie for Eric. This is the more common of the two ways to battle to the green. Ricky dropping it in, also just at bullseye's edge. Some easy threes for those players. And a nice birdie to pick up as the holes dwindle down. Important to snag as many strokes as you can. Adam with a great upshot as well. You can see they're really allowed to give this a soft run. Quite a liberating hole. Huge drive. You can attack the green on the second. An eagle as well. Flashing chains. These guys are here to play.
Yeah, for sure. And making this hole look easy. As it kind of is, especially today, we had a bit of a tailwind here. It was a pretty calm day, but if there was any wind on this hole, it was mostly a tailwind, even slightly from the right. So perfect wind to go for that huge hyzer, as everybody on the card has done, and looks like we're gonna have the first star frame of the round. Moving on to a much more difficult birdie. Hole 14, par 3. 124 meters, possibly playing just slightly shorter with a bit of a downhill grade. Once again, you have an initial gap to hit. It's a pretty wide gap, doesn't really come into play if you are confident about your throw, but makes you shape a straight shot that turns just slightly to the right. Preferred shot for most players are either a forehand, that flat forehand that faces to the right, or just the slightest bit of a turnover with a fairway driver.
Eric powering this straight release forehand up there. And a nice display of his touch with the forehand power. He snuck his way into the circle, about 7 or 8 remaining. And I like the height because although he didn't get the full distance, it was never at any risk of overturning or fading. Low to the ground and straight. We see Adam here pumping out the forehand as well. And just a little bit shy, short and right of Eric's, but absolutely putting for birdie as well. Hole 14, one of the holes where par is very manageable. The birdie is gettable, but still pretty hard and kind of difficult to bogey. There's not too many obstacles for danger. You see an unideal shot from Ricky, but still very much an easy 3.
An eagle, as he's recovering from that shoulder injury, rather going for a touchy turnover than the forehand, but he catches some branches. Line was looking great, or the angle rather was looking great, but both him and Ricky have thrown away their chances at birdie. Are looking to just take a par here. Pretty simple approach here. Shouldn't be too much of a problem, although Ricky does leave it a little bit short there.
An eagle, he's got his putter in his hand from way down there. A pretty significant misfire, although, given that he was just putting a low-speed disc, no problem, even gets the ground play. Look to his feet there, I believe potentially a slip off those rocks on his putting stance. Adam for birdie.
Not quite to be. Let's see if Eric can get the only birdie on the card. Only player on the card so far with a clean back 9. No bogeys. And he gets it. Beautiful putt. He's had already a couple of those outside the circle. Stepper jump putts. Great to see from the guy. And Ricky gets a bogey on this hole. That is almost unacceptable in this situation in the final round.
Yeah, we see Eagle securing his par, sitting at 18 under. Eric sneaking his way to 17 under, stringing together 2 birdies in a row. And with Ricky taking that bogey, will fall to 16 under, tied with Adam Hammes. Exciting battle here. Not too many holes remaining, only 4 left. We'll kick it off on 15.
Yeah, 15, the longest hole on the course. Par 4, 258 meters. Off the tee, you're trying to throw a bit of a turnover. Actually, more than a bit, just a huge turnover. Trying to get a lot of distance off the tee. You see that pinch point at about 140 meters. Many of these players might as well try to go over that, since they have the distance. And from there, depending on the length of your drive, you have a decision to make whether you want to attack this island or land on the main part of the fairway. There's the OB area between the island and the fairway. Also some OB pretty close, especially on the left side of the green.
Eric leaning on that forehand. A nice placement shot to center fairway. No troubles with that, although it will leave him quite some distance. This hole is pretty consistently coming in as the second most difficult after hole 12. So a lot of players will be just content with the par here. Adam looking at a very similar line to Eric.
Yeah, really this forehand play is almost just playing for the par. You know, from there you have 140 meters left to the green, which is a difficult shot to make. An eagle going full power almost, but kicks one of the trees. That's a terrible break. Looks like the angle was almost perfect from out of his hand. He has gone OB and gonna have a very difficult par save.
Ricky also looking to crush this one. Check out this full flight. A huge turn and fade with the overstable distance driver. And I'm sure at this point of his tournament, he will be attacking the green from there. Adam, as you mentioned, from that forehand position off the tee, likely just playing for 4. He's going to throw another shot before this narrowing. And then look to cross to the green. Eric to do the same.
Yep, pretty good play here just to play for that par. Since if you go forehand of the 2 first shots, you're left with a pretty manageable 45 to 50 meter approach. Looks like Eagle is going for the green here. Needs to fade left. This is looking great. Hits one of the latest trees there. he's still gonna have a scary putt looking at that downhill slope and OB behind the basket. And Ricky, after just a huge drive, you could see the 100-meter sign, which he went well past, meaning that his drive was closer to 170 meters and just parks it there with a great forehand, really making this hole look pretty easy.
Eric there looking for a pretty clean upshot will find himself on the lower side of the tiered green wall. We'll have to contend with that still. Adam just trying to pitch it up. Forehand, forehand, forehand for Adam Hammes. And he'll be left with a stress-free 4 here on 15. Eagle as well to navigate over this wall. You see the wind moving just a bit. Putt needing to be nosed up. And he does connect for his par. An important moment there. And Eric does the same.
Having to contend just a little bit with that wall, needed that high release, which luckily he normally has, not a very low release putter coming from the high part of the hip. And wow, what a great birdie from Ricky Wysocki. He's having an absolute roller coaster of a back nine right now.
The Wombat 3 pretty much goes right where you want to throw it. One of the most difficult shots to throw in disc golf is a perfectly straight shot. And the Wombat 3 does that really, really well.
Moving on to a much more technical short par 4. Only 185 meters. Off the drive, you're trying to throw towards this middle tree you see on the left side right now. Hopefully turn over just so slightly before that tree. Find yourself somewhere around here, where you're left with a pretty simple, only about an 80-meter approach off the perfect drive. Players are mostly throwing a slow disc hyzer to this green. Speed control very important as you're coming in with that hyzer angle. Oftentimes we see smaller or bigger skips since the grass is pretty short and that OB very close.
Ricky playing a fairly standard looking shot, navigating the slope, powers the forehand up the hill, fading right, negating the slope and too much damage to be done, crashing into the hillside. We'll see Eric here actually going for the backhand. Quite surprising. Oh, and a really unfortunate kick. I mean, he's been so comfortable with the forehands off the last 3, 4, 5 drives. Surprised to see him go to the backhand there, and unfortunately he is punished off the tree kick, finding OB left. Adam pushing it, but sits it down safely, very near to that OB line. If he were to kick anywhere leftwards, would have found it immediately.
Yeah, and I believe both Ricky and Adam might have opened up that left side hyzer forehand over the other fairway. Eagle here, turning it over too much. He has cut roll bounced to the OB left. Not any of the ideal drives here. And Eric also going for the left side hyzer forehand. That is a good play. If you have the gap open, you can see very open shot, leaving it well short but in the fairway, and should be a pretty easy par from there.
Yeah, he did kick very early. And we see Adam also just placing one into the fairway. As you mentioned, he didn't quite go for that super wide hyzer over the gallery, but keeping it tight and on the inside, safe over the fairway the whole way. You can see that the decision making and risk management of these players, with only 3 holes left to go, potentially aware of their standings, trying to not take too much damage, and a great shot by Eagle there, playing the forehand.
Yeah, once again with a bit of a shorter reach back than we have been used to seeing from him on those harder forehands. Ricky here, great looking approach. Landing it pretty much flat. You can see removing all of the skip, landing it soft on the green, and he's gonna have just a short putt left there. Eric with a very long jump putt.
Yeah, extremely long. And even catching that tree to keep him honest on his final putt. Adam doing the same here. Bleeding it a little bit left, but no worries as he is also just outside bullseye, about 5 or 6.
What a par save this would be. After the errant drive with a great forehand, and of course he makes it. Eagle McMahon. Incredible par save there. Having a slow a back nine of his own after a great front nine. I'm sure he's not very pleased about that, being already +1 on this back nine.
Yeah, and you see the players of this caliber even coming down the stretch. Eric Oakley just into the band. The first one for his single bogey, tapping in for his double. You can see that even despite unideal drives and tough circumstances, a great composure, very strong mental game. As Ricky slams that one in, a lot of power and very high in the chains, almost came out back towards him, but puts that in for 3. Adam securing the 4 with the less aggressive approach line. And as we mentioned, mitigating that risk. Only 2 holes left of your PCS Open.
Moving on to hole 17, an even shorter par 4 at only 155 meters. Playing uphill the whole way. Very attackable hole. Off the drive, you're trying to throw either a high forehand or a high turnover. Try to bend the disc right as much as possible, land somewhere in this open field, where if you're on the open field, pretty much from any spot you have a pretty manageable approach to the basket. Very uphill slanted green, so rarely do we see people going long on this approach. You can even give it a bit of a run for the Eagle 2 if you get the perfect drive, even from far ways out.
A lot of these guys are looking to get the low-speed disc high in the sky and turning over the entire way. And Ricky has done just that, positioning himself not too much distance bitten off, but dead center in the fairway. No worries there. Adam Hammis now. Not surprised to see him go with the forehand spike either. He digs it right into that sweet spot as well. Very common landing zone that I think all players are looking to lie in.
Yeah, off the drive, the drive is really just a setup. You can't get anywhere near the basket with the drive. You can see Eagle been trying to bite a little bit more distance than the others, but he's still in the open field. Just gonna have a shorter approach with that huge anhyzer. Really no anywhere on this field is just fine and gives the players a very likely chance for the birdie. Eric looks to be pushing this long, but he's stalling back, tombstoning into the ground. Still a very manageable shot from there, as you can see.
But this is quite inside, and he catches a heavy branch.
Wake up, dude. Finish the game strong. Let's go.
And some huge emotions from him after taking a double bogey on 16 and an errant upshot there. You can see how much it means to him coming down the stretch. An absolute bomb there to put himself right underneath Ricky Wysocki, leaning on that power forehand. Adam looking to do the same.
Yeah, forehand really the common approach here. You can choose really a forehand or a backhand approach. As you see, Adam throwing that to perfection. And Eagle actually being on the right side of the fairway, going for a grenade. Great play here. Once again, we have some of these low trees. He's inside the circle there.
Yeah, very nice. Looking like a berg in Eric's hand. I believe he was trying to throw that in and catching a tree. Very frustrated to have the potential for another bogey. He needs to put this in now for par. This is a long putt, very uphill.
Chance, man. You can't be bogeying this fucking hole.
Not quite to be, and you can just see how frustrating that is after playing a clean back nine, taking that double bogey and taking another bogey on this hole. Eagle. Good birdie putt.
And I really like the grenade play there, trying to cut off some distance over the corner on the second. As you mentioned, he was a little bit more to the right side of the gap, would have needed to shape quite a severe Anheuser backhand if he were to play it purely through the fairway. And great display of his skill set as we see a couple birdies picked up there. Very tight going into the final hole 18. Another significant score separator. Tell us about it, Elias.
Yeah, what a finishing hole we got here. Very common European kind of hole 18. Similar vibe that we see, for example, in the European Open next weekend. You can see OB lining the left and the right side of the fairway. Off the tee, players are trying to go either for a very safe, about 80-meter shot, or if they're feeling aggressive, going for a right finishing shot for about 120 meters of distance. And from there, whether you have a shorter or a longer drive, almost always you have a look to approach this basket with really a player's choice of height. So you can go with a pretty flat shot that just fades to the left, or you can also go for a huge spike hyzer. Forehand here is a very common play. Ricky looks to have thrown it pretty well, needs to skip out of the OB, and he does. That's a perfect position there.
Yeah, an ideal shot. Really trusting the stability of his disc over that left side, finishing beautifully into the middle. Adam has been shown a good line now, looking to do the same. Had quite a lot more hyzer on his release, but still more than enough distance to get around that bush, which can often pinch people ending too far to the right. Both him and Ricky in that sweet spot. Eagle shaping a backhand here. Very understable. This is turning extremely quickly and is in exactly that bush I mentioned that will pinch players to the green if they go right too early. Eagle will be in scramble mode now. We'll see if Eric can recover from his difficult stretch of the last few holes and compose himself here on 18 to end out strong. That's a great shot.
Yeah, very well done there. On this hole there was a slight headwind even today in this final round, so making that drive just a tad bit more difficult than usual. From here, Eagle has a choice to either go for the green or to go safe, and looks like he's going for the green. Has turned it over a bit too much, but that is...
Come on.
That is safe. You can see just the smallest bit of the disc on the inside of that OB rope. Good break from Eagle, going over the banner and still coming back.
Incredible there. We see Adam opting for the mega spike forehand hyzer into the green, and some great distance and width management over the crowd. Puts himself just outside bullseye. Eric here, also looking to the sky, is going to be playing the same line. Although this is not as wide, may find trouble.
Going for the cameraman there, an unfortunate break. He's only about 10 centimeters OB there. Gonna have to make a putt for the par. And Ricky, not a great shot, but he also gets a good kick off the tree, inbounds. You can see the frustration just going very quickly. He wants to get this round over with.
And Ricky's had a good stretch and push on this back nine despite 2 bogeys. We see Eagle McMahon to end out his tournament. An incredible birdie off a good break with that OB line, ending at 20 under par. In just a moment, we'll take a look at where that leaves him as the rest of our competitors look to close out their round on hole 18. Eric Oakley as well. Really nice poise and a great putt to finish his round.
Very strong mental there after a couple of tough holes. Still able to finish strong with that par save. Let's see if Adam can get the birdie. Of course he can. Great finish. Scoring a solid 6 under. Not a bad round for this final round, although it was really the round to score. Feels like almost everybody in the field was throwing the disc great. Ricky with the 7 under, also very good.
And that's it, folks. Your PCS Open has been concluded. We see the final standings. McBeast mode has been activated. Paul Macbeth with a 13 under round to take solo first place. James Proctor in second at 24 under. Calvin and Eagle, that final putt coming in clutch for him, tying for third. Eagle McMahon, Ricky Wysocki in solo fifth, and the field below them rather. History in the making. This was an absolute pleasure to be bringing you this guys this coverage. Elias, always a pleasure to work together, and make sure to support us. Leave the comment, leave the like, leave the subscribe, and if you're extra supportive, you can also go on Patreon and find us there.
Thank you, Connor, and thanks guys for watching. See you in the next tournament.